Thank you. Okay.
All right, do you have it now?
She said if she brings a written agenda, that helps to go back and forth better.
Okay,
And
yeah.
we'll speak into too.
Good afternoon and welcome to our Wednesday, June 12th, regular meeting at 2 o'clock for the Tri-Valley San Joaquin Valley Regional Rail Authority on this beautiful warm day. So make sure you drink lots of water and stay cool out there. But wanted to welcome everyone that's here this afternoon. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Right, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Candace, if we could please have our roll call of our members.
Director Kinjo. Bedoya,
Here.
Hobart. Not here. Hudson,
Here.
King Tingle. Here. Marshawn excused. Nybert,
Here.
Nuno. Not here. Rickman. Stepper,
Here.
Testa,
Here.
Zuba,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
Hernandez.
Present.
Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, so at this time, we will move on to item number 3, which is our public comments. Members of the public may address the board on any issues not listed on the agenda that are within the preview of the authority. Comments on matters that are listed on the agenda may be made at the time that the board is considering each item. Time limits on the public comment are this afternoon at 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. All right. Do we have any public comments at this time?
Yes, we have one member in person willing to make public comment, Roland LeBrun.
Thank you.
But they're all the same. But they. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad we fixed the audio, so maybe this time you're going to hear what I have to say about hydrogen. As I said last month, I have got some great news for you. First of all, Stadler on the H2 train managed to run on a single fuel load. I think it was 1,356 miles in 36 hours, nonstop. So the technology is there. That's not the issue. The issue is how do you produce the hydrogen? And I got good news for you is that the way that you're currently proposing to do it is to have your own hydrogen production facility. It's not the right way. It's already obsolete. It's going to cost you, well, I don't know what it was the last time, $200 million. There is something called white. You've heard all the colors of the rainbow for hydrogen. There's a new flavor of hydrogen called white hydrogen. It's natural. You find it right there in the ground. All you've got to do is to drill for it. And last month I knew that Bill Gates was drilling for it. What I've now learned is there are a total of 40 companies all over the United States who are currently drilling for it. I'm going to close off with the price point. You heard $5 per kilo, you heard $10 per kilo, you probably even heard $20 per kilo. Canada right now is extracting it for 50 cents a kilo. Now the question is how does it come to you? And I've also got some great news for you coming from PG&E. Right now they're experimenting with mixing hydrogen and natural gas in their pipelines at the same time. And then at the destination, when the gas gets there, they actually split it back into natural gas and hydrogen. So moving forward, please incentivize the oil and gas industry to transition from oil and gas to start drilling for hydrogen and producing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment?
No, we do not.
Our item number 4 is our consent calendar or consent agenda. Do I have any members of sitting here with me that are wanting to pull any items. Not seeing any, I will go ahead and ask for a motion for,
Motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, Karen Stepper.
thank you, Ms. Stepper. Okay, we have a motion by Stepper and a second by Rickman. Please take roll.
I have a comment on the item 4C.
Budget.
We doing the entire consent?
Karen, can you guys please mute when you are, because everybody else in the audience can hear you then. Thank you.
Are we doing the entire consent, Chairman?
Please take roll.
The question is if for Karen to repeat the motion, please.
Well, I think Jeff wanted to change the motion to omit the budget.
And I just had a question about item 4C. Are we doing the entire consent calendar right now?
Yes,
That's
Yes.
correct.
yes, the motion was to approve the consent agenda.
I just wanted to note on item 4C, the bottom of page 2. We approved the real estate consultant project manager at our last meeting, and it doesn't reflect that that was done. It says we're recommending the award of the consultant at the April 2024 meeting.
Kevin,
Will.
Yeah, we'll make the appropriate correction to that. That is correct. That contract was approved previously.
Then I'll change the motion to be as revised for the contract.
thank you. Perfect. All right, so we will revise that and we have the motion by Stepper and second by Rickman. Please take roll.
Akinjo,
Yes.
Bedoya,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
King Tingle,
Yes.
Nybert,
Yes.
Rickman, Stepper,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zuber,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 5 is the Resolution R06, 2024, authorizing the executive director, CEO to negotiate contract for alternative delivery support services. And if you can please go ahead and with your presentation. Are you on? Very good. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. This afternoon, we are seeking the board's authorization for the executive director and CEO to enter into a contract with the AECOM for alternative delivery support services. These activities are specific to the development of recommendations of how we will package as well as procure various construction activities for the overall project, recognizing that there are opportunities to break the overall project up into multiple bid packages that may be more palatable by the construction community, and then to look at different types of delivery methods, whether it be typical design bid build all the way out to design build that would be appropriate to ensure that we can deliver the project as quickly and cost effectively as possible. We will be including in this a significant focus in the early stages for industry outreach to be able to understand more about how the construction contracting community would be looking at the project through these lenses, and then bringing back those kind of recommendations to the board here in the future as we're preparing this information for the Federal Transit Administration and their focus on how these types of decisions are going to impact the overall schedule and cost of the project. I would note that the contract is identified in 2 phases. The first phase of that work is specific to the development of these recommendations. However, the second phase is a continuation of these support services that would actually support the authority in the procurement of the actual construction contracts, as well as through construction to be able to help us manage any issues that would come up through the delivery of the project through construction. So kind of a 2-phase approach, similar to what we presented with the real estate consultant project management activities in our prior board meeting. With that, I would just like to recognize that over the last month, we have gone through a procurement process that included the kind of formation of a selection committee to help us review the written proposals, as well as to go through the kind of oral interview process with the three teams that proposed on the project. And I'd like to thank the those agencies that were involved in that process, including representatives from the Mountain House Community Service District, as well as Caltrans. And also we had representatives from the Alameda County Transportation Commission. So sincerely appreciate the support of those partner agencies and the kind of prioritization of the consultant for this work. I would note that we are identifying that we recognize kind of the ranking of the firms, such that if the contract negotiations are not successful with AECOM as the top ranked firm, then we would be moving down the ranking of other firms for this project. But with that, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any questions, clarifying questions? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm a little bit not sure. Well, you are looking for alternate delivery system. What is the present condition of your delivery? Why are we looking for alternate?
Yes, so the intent here is that there are a range of different methodologies that we could employ across the different elements of the project. And so this is an assessment of what makes the most sense. So the firm would be developing recommendations to us, not only on how we might be able to break up the full, 22-mile corridor along with the stations and the layover facility into separate, construction packages, but also what methodology we might be able to employ to deliver them. So that it could include, things that we've talked about in the past as far as construction management, general contractor type of activities, where you're bringing the contractor on early to be able to support some of the final design activities and look for different types of, potential value engineering concepts that could be carried forward, into construction, as well as things like progressive design build, which is a variation of design build where, again, you're trying to look at how you can integrate the insights from the construction contracting community into the final design to be able to ensure that we don't have as much risk for issues during construction, where otherwise a designer is independently developing, the final plans, specifications for the project, and then the contractor is now looking to build those. So this is part of kind of that early engagement to bringing, the contracting community into those processes for looking for kind of efficiencies.
I'm just so AECOM is not the deliverer of the project. They are consultant on how the project will be delivered.
Yes, so AECOM would be brought on as a consultant to be able to support this assessment and develop those recommendations for the authority to be able to carry forward. And then, as I mentioned, that it would be kind of a two-phase approach. The first phase focus on, the industry outreach and the development of these recommendations for the authority. The second phase is then to be able to support us through the actual procurement process based upon those decisions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have anybody on Zoom that has any clarifying questions? Okay.
No, we have one person in person to make comment. Roland LeBrun.
Thank you, and this is going to be very quick because it's a question through the chair, and I believe it's just been answered. My question was, why isn't progressive design build part of the list of alternatives? And apparently I just learned that now it is one of the alternatives being considered. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and have Will answer that.
So yes, so part of the different methodologies that we're going to be assessing include progressive design build.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
No further public
All
comment.
right, not seeing any, I'll go ahead and bring it back to the board. Any other deliberation? Okay, not seeing any. Yes.
Yes, how transparent is this transaction with ACOM? Because we know they are top notch. Are there other consultants that we have really spoken with or brought into the table?
So we've gone through a competitive process where we went out with a formal request for proposals that we had gone through various channels to be able to, promote with the overall industry. We also held a pre-proposal conference to be able to also help, facilitate a broader understanding of what our needs are, trying to bring, more firms into the process. And then, as I mentioned, we established a selection committee that was comprised of a number of partner agencies to be able to go through the review of the written proposals, as well as the oral interviews that we held earlier this month to be able to bring forward the ranking and recommendations to the board this month.
Madam Chair, my concern is that the board, we are not supposed to be technical or engineers like you. Some might be. But how come none of the board members were involved during all these phases that we just need to approve now? But they were not part of the discussion in the beginning.
As
You can't really be part of the discussion. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I was just trying to make sure we clarified as far as, part of the formal process that you're looking for the board to be more involved in.
Not exactly. Not exactly that we are there to determine how you do your work, but if you want us to approve something, if I'm presenting something for approval, I can guarantee you don't come to me blindly. That is the issue, because down the road, when there are questions on whether you are transparent or not, you'll be standing alone by yourself, because you don't have anybody that has a prior knowledge. You can do a 2x2. I have recommended it 2x2 to the board members and prepare them for things like this. Okay, so that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Bring it back to the board. Any other deliberation? Nope, not seen any.
I'm ready to move.
All right.
I'll move that we approve the resolution.
And Hudson will second. Since he was trying to move, there quickly. All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Please take roll.
Akinjo,
Yes, ma'am.
Bedoya,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
King Tingle,
Yes.
Nywood,
Yes.
Rickman,
Yes.
Stepper,
Yes,
Testa,
Aye.
Zubo,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 6 is Equity Community Engagement Update, and this is an informational item.
Mr. Chair, Mary Ann Payne will be presenting this item.
Thank you. Candace is pulling up the slides.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to give a very brief update on where we are with the equity community engagement effort that we've been giving brief updates as we go along at each board meeting. And likely at our next board meeting, we'll have a fuller presentation on the results of some of the work that's going on right now. First slide. As a reminder, the equity community engagement effort basically has 3 components. One is to design an equity and inclusion framework that's really to dig into where our potential riders are and who they are, and design a community engagement effort and plan that would be authentically reaching out to these individuals. And then lastly is to implement innovative methods of outreach, new ways of reaching future riders. I also wanted to mention, we've been out in the community a little bit, a fair amount. We're happy to be out again. We were invited to Tracy Earth Project. We take our prize wheel, which is usually quite popular. And then we were also invited by a physics professor at Las Positas College on Earth Day. So we went out and spoke to a lot of very interested students who are actually commuting. Maybe 25% of the student body are commuting from northern San Joaquin County. So they were very excited to see us, and thank Candace for coming out on that very hot day with me. Next slide. This is just a snapshot of the type of work that we're doing. We're doing a travel shed analysis right now, and using what's called streetlight data. Our consultants have been able to look at origins and destinations in the travel shed area and determined that the communities of Mountain House, Tracy, Manteca, Modesto, Patterson, and South Stockton are like the primary travel shed area, and an area where potential riders will likely use the initial operating system. So we've identified that area as an area where we want to focus specifically on equity community engagement and getting out and reaching people and informing them about the project, but also learning more about ways they would use the system. So in that, we've implemented a Valley Link Rail Survey, which is a survey of travel through the Altamont corridor along 580. And that is posted right now on our website. And then we've also implemented a fairly comprehensive effort to reach all of the jurisdictions within our project area, and through social media, through community-based organizations. We've posted it in laundromats in some areas. It's been out as thoroughly as we can. So I would encourage you to take a look and share it. It'll be posted through the month of June is the time period we're targeting, depending on how things are going with the response, which so far has been pretty significant. So, and it's looking at just where people are traveling, how they're traveling, which station they would use, and soliciting ideas for how they could better use the system. So we're excited to come back and hopefully have some initial results from the survey when we come back to our next meeting. And then also more information about the travel shed, the demographics and people, and looking to get your input as well on types of outreach that would be desirable in the particular jurisdictions that you represent. So that's my snapshot.
No,
of
thank
the-
you. I know there's always opportunities as, you know, the weather gets better to be outdoors for us to take advantage of. I know that we have farmers markets, we have, you know, music in the park and all that. The fair, Alameda County Fair, my favorite spot to be right now. My office is in there, so there's a lot of people coming and going, actually. So, you know, it'd be actually useful to maybe post some of those in those areas just at the fair for folks that just happen to have their phone there and just, and you know, it's cashless now these days. And so everybody has their phone in their right-hand pocket or their left-hand pocket or something. But definitely just my thoughts. I know that our staff is really always tries to work really hard to be out there and do community outreach. So I appreciate that. Any comments or any questions? Yes, go ahead.
So I'm officially inviting you on behalf of the city of Lathrop for our July 1st birthday celebration. But we have to move a little bit fast. We only have 2 booths left, but we supply the information and the public is invited. So I'll supply the information, how you can proceed going about. The only condition the city is putting on me is that we will not be responsible for any graphics. We are not going to be responsible for any graphic design or anything. They told me outright, we will support Valley Link, but don't put the onus on us to design your merchandise and display and stuff like that, which some people have requested the city to do. And the time is just not there for us to do that. So go ahead,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you. We'll look forward to that. And I'll note, I think I mentioned to you the other day, we have a large cutout train where kids can have their photos in with an engineer cap. So
You may
Trying
just
to-
have to provide a fan for them when they go out there because it'll be
trying
very
to
warm.
reach out to all age groups.
Yes, if there's any advanced thing you want me to do or you want the city to participate on this, it is not my project, it is Valley Link as a body. So if you want any preparation that you want the city to be involved in, just let me know ahead of time, and Kevin, the CEO, can contact the city manager also. But those numbers will be given to you and Candice, and you guys can follow up with those individuals. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know in the past, we've had very big turnouts at meetings in Lathrop. There's a lot of interest.
And that is why we are in the community and we are telling them the train is not dead, it's just on the track. And I have spoken with Manteca Bulletin unofficially. Today we had a ceremony where the supervisors were there. San Joaquin County supervisors were there. This is our second time of meeting today. Director Suba was there. So the Manteca Bulletin was there too, and I thank them for saying something good about the Valley Link and the future of Valley Link. So that's another opening where we can get more involved in the community. So I'm prepping all these agencies for us to be able to liaison with them either now or in the future. So those are what is going on behind the scene. Just want to let you know. So you'll be welcome. And it's not going to be strange to anybody when they see you. Okay?
Thank you.
I do have a
Director Kennedy.
comment. Director Payne, this coming Saturday, June 15th, will be a Juneteenth celebration here in Mountain House. There should be a large turnout, so if these flyers are available, and if you could have those out, that would be an excellent opportunity. We're expecting anywhere from 1,500 upward for that event. Another opportunity for the information to be assimilated within this town or community would be July 4th. There's an opportunity to have a table or a booth where this information could be disseminated among the attendees. So that's two opportunities to reach the mass. I know you did a wonderful presentation here for the community of Mountain House. I think this was last month. Time has been going by so fast, but I think it was well received. So this would be like a follow-up and a benchmark that we're moving along on it, and people can give their input and also get more information.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Any other fairs you would want our two people to be at? Because there's only two. Four. Okay, my suggestion is, utilize your time wisely. So if we can put this like on social media where we should be able to put it on our websites at our cities or these events where it's more friendly that way. And then maybe we could do a quick video that we could put out there and say, I'm always about efficient. Efficiency goes a long ways, so. All right. Do we have any public comment for the equity community engagement?
We do not.
Okay, so moving right along, we'll go on to item number 7, which is our environmental update. And this is an informational item.
Thank you, Board Chair and Board. Good to be here today to give you an update on our environmental process. I'm going to take you down a little bit of memory lane first to remind you where we've been through the process, which is on the next slide, Candace, if you don't mind. So we really started a process of determining the Valley Link project elements during the feasibility study, which the board did go ahead and accept in 2019, in October. We then, from the feasibility study, started to walk down our environmental process. And as some of you might recall, in 2021, you did certify our California Environmental Quality Act environmental document called an Environmental Impact Report. And that was contained in that was the full 42-mile Valley Link project that proposed to go from the existing Dublin Pleasanton BART station area to the proposed North Lathrop station. Also, what was certified in that was 2 initial operating segments, one of which was from the existing Dublin Pleasanton BART station area to Mountain House Community Station. And it's that initial operating segment that the current California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, subsequent environmental impact report is based on, that I'm going to talk about today. So that's where you see kind of there with 2024. After this process, we'll then move into final design. And then the really exciting part where we get to put shovels in the ground and start doing construction and ultimately the operation of the system. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about from the 2021 CEQA document to the CEQA document currently. I've already said that we're focused on that initial operating segment to Mountain House, but there was also some additional changes from that 2021 CEQA document. That is why we're doing a subsequent CEQA environmental impact report. So we had 3 main changes, and those were the relocation of the Valley Link Dublin Pleasanton Station platform to the south side of the interstate I-580 instead of in the middle or median of I-580. We also did some redesign and track realignment in the Altamont Pass. Nicely, it helps us. It gives us a better travel time for our future riders because it does straighten out the alignment. And then finally, based on a lot of comments that we received during the process, all the way from the feasibility study through the 2021 CEQA document, outreach times, we did hear a lot about making sure that we looked at a station within the Mountain House community. Previously, in the 2021, we had a station for Mountain House that was south of the community, wasn't actually embedded in the community. So we did add that, as well as a layover facility that's adjacent to the new proposed station at Mountain House. So the adoption of those changes and the initial operating segment that we're looking at in the current environmental document was April 2023 for the board. You all adopted what we call the locally preferred alternative, and that's what's contained within this environmental document that we're here to talk about today. And all that information on the left you can see is in our website. So if anybody's interested to kind of go into a little bit more detail, feel free to go on there. Next slide, please. So throughout this timeline, specifically from 2018, as we move forward to a potential certification of the final subsequent EIR in late summer, fall 2024, we have had multiple opportunities for the public to give input to the project, which we feel, of course, is always a very important part of establishing a project. So there will also be, as you can see here in the last green box on the bottom to the right, that was our public hearings that I'll talk about in a moment for this subsequent environmental impact report. And then finally, there'll be another opportunity at the board meeting that considers the certification of that document as well, for people to be able to speak and comment as they typically do at your board meetings. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the CEQA process, just quickly, is to inform decision makers like yourselves and the public about the potential significant environmental impacts of a proposed project, to enable accessible public participation in the review process, promote coordination amongst agencies, and identifies ways to either avoid, minimize, or mitigate significant environmental effects of the proposed project. Next slide, please. So in the document, we have 6 different chapters that cover everything from a really detailed project description, talking about as well the environmental impacts, as well as the alternatives that were considered. The appendices are chock full of a lot of detail, including 15% preliminary engineering plans. So you can really get into the details there, ridership forecasts, and then a bunch of technical memoranda on the environmental analysis that backs up the chapters and the analysis that's in the report itself. Next slide, please. So we had 18 different resources that we review for this environmental process, and you're going to see those on these next 2 slides. And what we found with the 18 is that some of them had potentially significant impacts. However, after mitigation, the significance reduced down to less than significant. So really utilizing those mitigation measures has helped to reduce the impact, which is, a big point of the environmental review process. Next slide, please. In blue, these are the remainder of the ones that we applied mitigation measures to bring things to less than impacts to less than significant. And then in gray at the bottom, we've got these particular resource areas, everything from greenhouse gas emissions over to energy, where we have no impacts or less than significant impacts. And some are actually beneficial impacts. So for example, on the greenhouse gas emissions side, we do reduce emissions overall for the region. Next slide, please. Now, we want to make sure that as we put forward the draft environmental impact report, that we want to make sure people know it's out there and that they have an opportunity to review it and provide public comment on it, as well as agency comment. So we went through a notice of availability process where we put the notice in newspapers, 9 of them, including 1 in Spanish. We then also did other advertisements through the state clearinghouse notification, which is really important for agencies to know that it's available. We did paper mail distribution to properties that were within or contiguous with the project area. We did an email blast to the Valley Link mailing list, which has been in creation since the beginning of the authority's existence, so it's quite large. And then we also did live updates on the website, getvalley-link.com. We had social media platforms, LinkedIn and Facebook, that were utilized to get the word out. And we offered translation in safe harbor languages as well to make sure everyone could understand the information in the document. Next slide, please. So in addition to that, during the public comment period, which was 45 days, we also held 3 different meetings. So we had 2 live public hearings, 1 in Livermore and 1 in Mountain House. And then we also had a virtual public hearing where Director Akinjo joined us. So thank you for that, and did an introduction for us. And all of these had the availability of Spanish translation included to make sure that we, again, had accessibility for those who don't have English as their first language. Next slide, please. So from the result of those meetings, as well as the overall comment process, we did receive over 100+ submissions of comment letters, emails, etc. And within those, we received well over 300 individual comments. So, we're busy going through those right now. The two circles in green on the left were where we got statements from court reporter or written comment cards. Those happened at the live public meetings. And then on the the right-hand side in blue, we had on the website, we had a comment form available for people to just click on and fill out. We also had the ability for people to email in their comments, and then, of course, using regular paper mail as well as an option. I will let you know that the majority, over 85% of the comments, came in through the website comment form and the email combined. So those were definitely the highest use areas, which is great for us to know as we continue. I think just one other comment on the public outreach piece where we had the 3 meetings, we had over 75 people attend those in combination. So next slide, please. So what's next? You can see in gray kind of the steps we've taken for this environmental process for the current CEQA document. And that started back in November of 2022, where we did and distributed a notice of preparation. So it was just letting people know that we were going to be preparing this environmental document. We then went through what we call a scoping process, and that was a public and agency process again, where we did outreach to get input on alternatives as well as anything in particular that we need to be looking for in the environment. And then, of course, preparing of the draft and then putting out the draft for public review, which we just completed. And now we're in the next 2 circles. As I mentioned, we've closed the public comment period now. We've got a whole team reviewing and considering the many comments that we have received from the public and the agencies. We are preparing the final subsequent environmental impact report, and in that will include all the comments we received and responses to those comments. And then finally, we'll be coming back to you again late summer, early fall to propose a certification of the final subsequent environmental impact report and the ability to act on bringing forward the proposed project. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, just before I ask the rest of my colleagues here, just to clarify for folks that have been through this with us since the beginning, just briefly, you don't have to go into too much detail. I know what happened, but I know the rest of the Tri-Valley is on Zoom, but just kind of explain just very quickly the relocation of the Dublin Pleasanton going to the south side of 580.
Sure, yeah. As we progressed design from the 2021 CEQA document, we were looking at the Dublin Pleasanton station in particular. Having it in the median there did cause additional impacts to the highway movement, which also would result in more property impacts on the north. And so we looked at opportunities to reduce those impacts as well as to reduce the cost associated with it, but to still give a really good connection and service. And so that's why we started looking at the south side. And so that's how we got to the new location for the station.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and bring it back to any clarifying questions. Go ahead, Angel.
Thanks, ma'am. Thank you for the report. We did receive a public comment that was sent to us by Mr. LeBrun about realignment at the Dublin station. I don't know if that is part of what you're going to be looking at, because it's a little bit of highly technical. What does it mean by moving things 3 feet or 3 foot and all the up and down, everything he drew looked nice, but without any engineering background, it's hard to decipher what he's really referring to. So as we finalize the environmental report, is that part of the things you are looking at, or are you still making changes since the public comment is closed?
Sure. So we will, we did receive that comment along with a lot of others. And so as I mentioned, we're going to go through each and every comment that received, including that suggestion, look at it from an engineering perspective. I know that the authority team is already reviewing that as, the comment came in. And we'll respond to that comment after we had some time to kind of look at it. But yeah, we will be looking at that both from the authority side as well as the consultant side.
I have a question. As comments are made and it's fielded and you're getting back to the individuals, is there anywhere that you publish it so people can look at this and see what's been asked and what's been answered to further educate the public?
Absolutely. So as we're going through the response to comments, we don't reach back out individually to folks and talk to them because we want to make sure that everyone can see, as you mentioned, right? It's really good for everyone to see all the comments and the responses we have to all of them. So that's why, as part of the California Environmental Quality Act, they want us to list out all of those comments and respond to each and every one of them. And so we'll be doing that, and that document will be available and live on the website, similar to the way the draft was, for folks to look at it. So that'll all be contained in the final environmental impact report.
I have a question. This is Jeff Nybert.
Hi, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow on the previous comment regarding the submission by Roland LeBrun of the his version of the Pleasanton Dublin Station connectivity to BART. Looking back at the April 2023, what's it called? A locally preferred alternative. It mentions that for Pleasanton Dublin Station, the primary factor was the right-of-way acquisition and disruption to operations for existing businesses in the vicinity of Scarlet Court. And the removal of the need to widen I-580 to the north of the existing median. So those operations are in the, and businesses are in the existence, or in the vicinity of Scarlet Court, which is somewhat to the west of the BART station. Does the proposal by Mr. LeBrun in any way impact that decision on relocation in terms of the businesses and operations in the vicinity of Scarlet Court?
So the businesses in that area, as you mentioned, it's a little bit further west, if you will, from our proposed station location. And that's because as we would need to reconfigure the highway, those impacts tend to kind of extend further than where the initial impact is, because you have to be able to pull traffic in and out. And there's a interchange that's adjacent as well to the west. So we have to consider all of that as you do any realignment. So that does end up pushing that right away out, impacting. So as far as, again, reviewing what's put in through a public comment, we're just at the beginning of that. So I don't have an answer to whether, from a design perspective, what's being presented would cause the same impacts, whether what's being proposed would have an impact on BART operations, either during construction or overall. There's many factors that we have to consider as we look at them. So that's something that the authority and their consultant teams will be looking at as we review that comment.
Maybe I could help out a little bit with that, Diana and Chair, and that is, there were many alternatives that were evaluated as part of the feasibility study and the previous EIR. And a lot of the alternatives, I myself, when I was working for San Joaquin Rail Commission, I like to draw in boxes too of ideas that I have. And one of the things that I had considered was stuff that had been done before, like eBART, its connection, similar to how Valley Link could connect, or a vertical platform with escalators going down or up. It's real easy to draw those without involving Caltrans or BART or any of the other agencies that have to weigh in on the decision-making process. Luckily, that was all done as part of the previous EIR and feasibility study. And what happens out of those processes, you are able to determine what the constraints are for when you're picking an alternative to study. And that's why there's a range of alternatives, because every alternative evaluates the constraints and what you can do and can't do. Unfortunately, with the 2021 EIR, the platform that was presented in that, the preliminary engineering had not been vetted through the Department of Transportation. And in looking at that, as we started with the cooperative agreement process with Caltrans during the environmental reviews, it was obvious that the freeway is going to push out significantly more to the north than had been presented previously in the feasibility study or the EIR. As such, it would have impacted all the properties to the north in Dublin to such extent that it was probably unbuildable. And not only that, from a constructability perspective, when we talk about alternative delivery strategies for construction and those type of questions that got brought up earlier, you have to stage the construction equipment to build the platform in an active freeway. It became undoable on that side of Dublin. So in essence, that forced us to look at another strategy for the alternative that was approved by the board as the locally preferred alternative. And as such, the Federal Transit Administration has already approved also as a locally preferred alternative as we move forward in the NEPA environmental process, federal environmental process. So that just a little bit of context on the backstory as far as what was done up to this point that got us to the point where we were looking at really probably the only buildable solution at what I call not just a Dublin Pleasanton station. It's an interface in a freeway with a existing transit system. So those are the constraints we had to work around. It's different than just putting a station somewhere in the median where there is no other transit connection such as BART.
No, very well said. There are
Yeah.
many businesses right along that area that was proposed initially. And
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the information.
thank you. And just to state the fact that those are huge sales tax revenue for the city of Dublin. As you know, many of them are car dealerships. And in cities, car dealerships and hotels bring in a lot of sales tax revenue. So they do. But no, thank you. Thank you for your added comments. All right. And move on and ask if there's any public comments on this item.
Yes, we do. The first one is from Roland LeBrun.
Thank you. So, obviously, some of you have read the document, but what I have here is an 8-slide presentation, which is going to take 2 minutes. That's basically going to answer most of the questions that you asked just now. And then obviously, if you got more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So next slide, please. So what's the problem? Well, we know what the problem is. The station moved. Next slide, please. So there it is again. That's what's being proposed. Next slide, please. And now, how do you transfer between the two, between 3 and 5 minutes? Well, that's not seamless Bay Area. Next slide, please. So why didn't the old design work? Because if you kept it entirely within the BART right-of-way, the support columns for the trains would have been exactly where the BART tracks are right now. That was never going to work. That design was never going to work. Next slide, please. So there's a solution here, and this is not an AECOM solution. This is an Arcadis solution. It's a Dutch firm. And they understand that the trains weigh a lot more than the passengers. So if you move the trains back in the middle, you can support them with a single column. You absolutely have the room to build these columns all the way down the alignment between the two BART tracks. Next slide, please. So this is what it looks like from above. The yellow, it's the right end of the existing BART platform. The green are the escalators, how you come up. So now you're up on the Valley Link level. You've got this concourse that allows you to go from the two blue platforms and connect to BART. Next slide, please. And this is it. This is how you mitigate. So now you're down from 5 minutes to 30 seconds. There are absolutely no impacts outside the BART right of way. There is no land of acquisition. Unless you ask me to, and I can come back, I can show you how this gets built. It doesn't get built with a framework, etc. Okay, you got this. Okay, my time's up. Sorry about that. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Well, yeah, I have a question for Mr. LeBrun. Could you then just tell me how it gets built?
Excuse me?
Yeah, at the end there, you were going to say how it gets built. I have a
Yes,
question.
the way it gets built, if you look at the very last page in my EIR comments, there is this kind of red gantry that's going above a freeway, and you can see there's actually cars and stuff going on underneath it. And the way it works is that every night you bring in a 10-foot section of this guideway, and it literally gets glued to what was put there the previous night. So you can calculate it. If it's 1,000 feet long and you work 7 days a week, it's going to take you 100 days to get the job done. And that's the way it gets done. It's completely a different construction technique. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
Yes, we do. John Tashini. Am I saying that correctly?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm here to comment on some of the environmental issues for the Mountain House site. One of the concerns is our traffic. There's maybe 20 to 33,000 commuters plan to come to this site. There are two basically country roads that you can now approach this site. One of them goes through the community that I live in. There's also a school on that road. This massive increase in traffic is a safety problem for the school. Also, excuse me, sorry. Saved by the bell. So Von Sosten is the street the school is on, and this alternative to Grant Line, which is probably one of the #1 accesses to this site, at Grant Line will certainly can't accommodate all these cars. So Von Sosten becomes another alternative, which is in our community, and that's just not a good place for safety reasons. I don't know what the plans are to mitigate this issue, but the infrastructure is very poor in that area, so that needs to be fixed. Another thing, noise, crime, and lights. The noise will increase for this facility right near our community. The lights will be 24/7. How are you going to mitigate that? How do you keep our community, free from that type of environmental issue? Also, our homes, we supply our water is supplied by wells. Another concern is the contamination of the groundwater. Fuel storage, the hydrogen storage tanks, I see as an explosion hazard. And also other issues, the toxic waste created from maintaining these drains. Where
Thank
will
you,
that
sir.
go?
Your time is up. Thank you.
Time is up?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we respond to all that.
Sir, if you'd like to leave a copy, you could leave it with our clerk.
Actually, this
You-
copy is in the-
You could give it to,
This copy is in the comments.
Okay, then we have it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next public comment.
Wendy Toshini.
Good afternoon. As a resident of the Lambersville community, which is located immediately behind the proposed Mountain House labor facility and near the Mountain House Community Station, I'd like to point out the many deficiencies in the draft SEIR. I believe that the impact on our community has been severely underreported and or not reported at all. In my opinion, there would be a significant impact to the residential areas, which is not mitigated by the proposed measures. In addition, this project is less than 100 feet from our community of homes. And we should have been notified in writing via the mail that this proposal had changed. The traffic on 205 is often backed up, as you know, which is the whole idea of the rail. Von Sostin being a 2-lane road will be overwhelmed. It already is, but it will be doubly overwhelmed with 6,000 new vehicles. And you know that all the residents of Tracy will be going on shortcuts. They won't be staying on the freeway to get to the station. In addition, there's water maintenance, fueling, and storage of the train will contaminate the well water. And I didn't see that in the mitigating ideas. There are also light pollution, endangered species. Have those been even addressed? I didn't see anything about the kit fox or the burrowing owls. The south side of I-205 has very few residential homes and is primarily industrial. I don't see any reason why that should be changed. It should be on that side of the freeway and not the north side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tatiana Briff.
Good afternoon. I am from the same community, Census Ranch. Our major complaint is that we were not notified properly on time, number one. And second, we were not included in the whole environmental report. Our whole neighborhood was ignored. So as everybody else, I'm concerned about traffic because our roads were projected 50 years ago and they are packed right now, and you're gonna bring 5,000 cars a day. They are not going to handle it. Water, again, we are on water wells, and we concern both with water supply and drainage. Air quality, noise, and light pollution, no mitigations measures were offered, and it's gonna make even worse. Now, the big issue nobody talked about. We are Altamont Hills. They burn every year several times per summer, every single year. Now, we have high winds here. This is the very reason wind farm here. High winds, wildfire every year, hydrogen storage tanks, and 5,000 cars a day, and no extra roads to escape. You are planning a major disaster here. There are over 1,000 people living in this community. And given all of this, we will have hard time to get any home insurance, you are dumping the whole neighborhood for the comfort of Mountain House. Mountain House wants this station. Again, you can move to the southern side of the highway by the warehouses. It will be better for everyone. And animals, again, will not include, not all wildlife was included in the environmental report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janice Craig, I can't make out the last name. Can you say that again for me?
It's okay. She's aware.
I need to get her name though.
First of all, I have to agree with the speakers that say it should be built on the other side of the freeway. This project originated in a different location, but for some reason it's being relocated in our backyard, which presents some insurmountable problems. Residents from the Los Ranchos Santos Ranch Curry Estates area have submitted our concerns and many unsolvable problems which would devastate our neighborhood, though we haven't gotten any solutions. First is the traffic resulting from 6,000 car parking lot at the end of Von Sosten Road. There are 5 roads that exit subdivisions onto Von Sosten Road. Are we going to have signal lights at each road so we can get out of the subdivision? We don't know what your solution is. There's dangers of living, is this a hydrogen storage or hydrogen power plant that you're building next door to us? Can anyone answer that for me? Is it a power plant or a storage plant? Where is the hydrogen being made? We don't get answers, okay? Groundwater quality, we all live on well water, in local well water. Air quality, we live downwind from this project. Public safety is another concern. This train brings Tracy closer to the Bay Area, which is a wonderful thing. But don't ignore the fact that it will also bring the Bay Area into Tracy. Our only law enforcement is the county sheriff. They take care, they do their best, but they have to cover the entire county of San Joaquin, which seriously affects their response time. Mountain House may someday have their own police department, but right now they depend on the sheriff also. But we will always be an unincorporated area if we can help it, and we will only have the sheriff. Health concerns, depreciation of our property and quality of life are all should be considered in the EIR, and I want to be assured that these objections and concerns are being seriously addressed.
Thank you, ma'am.
Where
Your
do
time
we
is
get
up.
feedback on our concerns? You ask us for our concerns, we give you our concerns, but where do we get feedback?
Thank you. Kevin, can you answer the question with regards to hydrogen?
The hydrogen storage was presented on site, and that can be adjusted and moved further away. And I brought that up at the public meeting as well.
Okay.
But I would say also that all the environmental technical studies will be, and comments will be addressed as part of this process.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, I think we deserve some answers to our concerns. I don't know where we
Thank you,
get
ma'am.
them.
Your time was up.
And the
I did give
EIR
you-
should
ma'am,
not
I
be
did, I
approved.
did give you some more time, so thank you. Your time's
I'm
up.
sorry. I
Your
can't-
time was up, and I
Okay.
gave you a little bit extra time. I waited for Mr. Sheridan to address that, so it wouldn't take away from your time.
Okay.
Candace?
That was the last public comment.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, if you can just please step forward and then you can fill out the paperwork later. We'll go ahead and give you 2 minutes to say your public comment.
Okay, I live next door to in Santos Ranch, and also my concern is the well water. How safe is our water going to be? I'm concerned about the crime. I don't want to be, this is a community, a residential community. I feel that this Valley Link will bring problems, air pollution, and then crime. I don't want to be like Oakland. I don't want to be like Stockton, where there's so much crime going on. And then the traffic is getting worse all the time, especially with all the industrial companies that are moving in with the big rigs. So it's just going to cause more problems for Von Sostin area and our little school, Lambertsville, where all the children are going there. There's going to be too much traffic. And then I could see now that even people, when there's so much traffic, they go in the surrounding areas of Santos Ranch. And I'm also worried about the wildlife that we have with the Valley Link train coming in and having not enough police. So I think crime is just gonna get worse.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then
Oh,
if you could please,
by any chance, if you guys want to do something, I would rather have a youth center.
you may want to speak to your,
Or the community center.
whichever you're saying. If you could please fill out the paperwork and then just,
Oh.
that'd be great. Thank you
This
so
one?
much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd always be happy to talk about community centers.
Okay.
All right,
That's another
but
name.
thank you. Do we have any other public
I
comment?
think that was the
All
last
right,
one.
thank you. We will go ahead and close our public comment on that. I'm bringing it back to our board. If we have any other clarifying questions or concerns with Diane. I know I saw Diane moving quickly and writing lots of notes, and so wanted to bring it back for the board. Not seeing any?
Yes, Mr. Madam.
Of
Mayor.
course.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Akinjo. I'm giving you 2 minutes.
No, this is mostly revisiting the question I had asked earlier on. I mean, I didn't want to dwell too much on it because you have said in your notes that some of this mitigation moves from high to non-essential or the language. Let me look at the language that you were using. Less than significant.
Yes, sir.
And I think most of the comments we are hearing borders on that less than significant. So how do we counter that? I guess the bottom line is, how does it become less than significant? Let's just arbitrarily take vibration.
So just give an example from noise and vibration, I think you just said, right? So I think from a noise perspective, we did analyze the area and we look for sensitive receptors throughout, which are houses, businesses, schools, et cetera. And then we do noise monitoring out there for understanding the existing noise that's there. And we did have one of our machines out taking noise samplings from the neighborhood that's adjacent to the proposed layover facility so that we could get what we call ambient noise. And then we model in what the noise would be from the train included into that. And so that's how we kind of did a noise analysis, if you will. Hypothetically, if there was a noise impact associated with the project in a particular area, then you would do potential mitigation. And some of the example mitigations that you can do for noise hypothetically would be, maybe a noise wall could be put up. There could be a mitigation oftentimes if it's one specific house that has an issue. Sometimes there's glazing of windows, helping to kind of soundproof the house a little bit more. So those are some examples of how noise is dealt with in general. In the area we're speaking of, kind of in the Mountain House area, there was, at the top of my head, I'm trying to remember, but I believe there was not noise concerns associated with the project due to the train noise. So that's the results that I recall off the top of my head.
But remember my last question though was, since the public comment is closed on the SEIR, are you going to make any changes to the SEIR?
That's remains to be seen because we just got the comments, so we're starting to look through those. Again, hypothetically, in other CEQA documents, As we go through the comments, we might make clarifying statements in the document to help people understand better. We might, look at mitigation measures that are more robust if need be. There's all sorts of things that can be done in response to comments. It's just going to be a matter of getting through those and understanding what all the comments are. And yes, I was taking a lot of notes during that conversation, so I appreciate everybody who came up and spoke. It helps us for sure.
And I'm sure finally, those will be within the guidelines that is acceptable under the current law, right?
Yes, there is approved ways to do the analysis according to the California Environmental Quality Act and standard practice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Maybe, Chair, I could just add a little more context there
Sure.
for Mr. Akinjo. So having done a number of these projects, there are times when there are clearly legal requirements for environmental that you do. And sometimes legal requirements don't always satisfy everybody, but that doesn't mean that as we work on this project and develop the maintenance facility that we can't listen to the community's input on how those facilities are designed. I've been a couple different locations up and down the San Joaquin Valley where maintenance facilities tend to trigger certain reactions because people believe they look like an old railroad facility rather than a much more modern facility that fits certain environmental standards and LEED. And you can work with the communities on the design. So they might not necessarily be an environmental mitigation that needs to be mitigated to something significant that's a perception versus a law, but it doesn't, what I'm trying to say is we can work with the community on how we design the facility so that it is perhaps less offensive or less than desirable to them. And that's how we do that. These modern facilities are what they call LEED facilities, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. The ACE facility, which completed in 2015, is a good example, right in the middle of a community in a neighborhood. The water is recycled. They're using city water. There's noise abatement. The lights aren't facing the community. We'll take all that into consideration, and this isn't the last time we'll be talking to the communities about what this facility looks like. This is simply the environmental process to clear the area for the proposed concept of the facilities. The actual maintenance facility design has not been done yet. We're just showing a location, and then we're going to come back out and we can re-engage the community Mountain House and Santos Ranch on what it's going to look like.
Thank you for those comments. Just to add to the folks that are here this afternoon and their concerns, I come from being published in the newspaper all the time as the fastest growing city in Northern California for the last decade, which is Dublin. And Dublin is a very great community. You know, Mountain House is going to become a city. We became a city in 1982. We broke away from the county to some extent. We have 2 BART stations. So if you haven't looked up Dublin, please look up Dublin. We get a lot of employees that work in the Tri-Valley from this area. And it takes them 2 hours, an hour and a half just to get to a job. So they're all at my Whole Foods, they're at the hotels, and even beyond and throughout even Alameda County. So again, please look up Dublin. We're a great community. We're fiscally responsible, and we're definitely in the green. So we'll go bring it back. This was an informational item, and we will go ahead and move on to item number 8. Sure, absolutely.
Guys' voice isn't being ignored. I mean, this. Building it next week. So if you guys have coming forward and your concerns that how your concerns about transparency, this is what the EIR is about, is that transparency part. I include to you for being here.
guys for writing these letters and being part of the process. I know many of you personally, you know, I've dealt with many issues in, your area, so I know you guys keep on top of things and, you know, use another term, bulldog, you know, being a bulldog, which is great. So I just want to let you know we hear you. And just because you're not getting answers that one, you know, in the 5 minutes that you have with the next hour or so, doesn't mean it's not going to be addressed. That is what the CIR. So I just want to make sure you guys know that and that, you know, we hear. So thank you, Chair. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. And thank you. And thank you for explaining that in a little bit more detail. So really appreciate that.
Madam
Go
Chair,
ahead.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
That person's microphone must not have been on. We didn't hear a thing he said here in Pleasanton.
I'm sorry? I
The
can't
person's
hear you.
mic was on. We did not hear a thing that he said.
Oh, he was just expressing his,
It's got to be read.
I did all that speech for nothing. Oh. Is it? I blame Zuber, Mayor Rippon. But hey, in a nutshell, this is what the EIR is designed to do, weed out these problems, read out comments, and it'll, we'll get, answers and comments from a lot of the concerns that we have, and it will come back to the board. If you want to hear me in person, please come to Mountain House, you know, so sorry about that.
Thank you. We will move on right along to item number 8, which is our state legislative update.
And Madam Chair, this item will be presented by Gus Curry, our state legislative consultant.
Great. Thank you, Will. Good afternoon, Chair Hernandez and Directors Gus Corey, State Legislative Advocate for Valley Link. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and address the board. I heard that your favorite word is efficiency, Madam Chair, so I'll be as efficient as possible. So keep me accountable on that. Just wanted to give you a quick briefing with respect to the state budget and then legislative priorities that we're following for the board. So with respect to the state budget, the big three, meaning the governor, the Assembly Speaker, and the Senate President Pro Tem, are currently in negotiations on trying to wrap up the state budget, which is due to be voted on by this Saturday, June 15th. The governor then has to sign it by June 30th for it to go into effect on July 1st. There's several outstanding issues that don't really pertain to transportation, has to do with Medi-Cal reimbursement rates and all sorts of other things. So there is an impact to transportation that I'll get into, but just the overall picture, I know you've probably had a lot of numbers thrown at you with respect to how big the deficit is. So the Legislative Analyst's Office said it was about a $73 billion deficit. They agreed on about a $45 billion deficit. $17 billion of that was addressed in April. There's a balance of roughly $28 billion that they're trying to address right now. They've been off by a whopping $83 billion as far as their forecasting. And a lot of it's because we're relying upon volatile sources such as capital gains, corporate and personal income tax. And so there's that fluctuation where you go from a $101 billion surplus to swing it over to a $45 billion deficit. So what's it mean for transportation? For all intents and purposes, we're fairly insulated, and that's because we're relying upon special funds like the gas tax or vehicle registration fee. There were some general fund augmentations made, though, that we're wanting to keep intact. And the Senate Bill 125 funds, which there was a $5 billion pot, SJCOG and MTC received a portion. MTC elected to use their funding to take care of BART core capacity projects. We're working with SJCOG and our legislative delegation. Very much appreciate Assemblymember Villapudua and Senator Eggman, as well as Director Wright, Director Rickman, among others, and talking to the SJCOG folks and trying to explore opportunities to try to acquire a portion of those proceeds. So those so far are intact. There's also some transit and intercity rail capital program funds. It's the TRCIP is the acronym. I know we hate using acronyms. We received a $25 million award last cycle to help us with our planning purposes. We're looking at doing another submission, maybe in concert with LAVTA. And so we were able to recapture $148 million of funding, which grows the pie to about $1 billion program for cycle 7. So we're hoping to have another success story there. So that's the state budget. On the legislative front, there's really 3 bills of interest. This is in the board memo that I produced as well. So we're sponsoring Senate Bill 1068. Senator Eggman is the author. This would allow us to have direct authority to use the construction manager, general contractor procurement method. You heard Mr. Ritter talk about, we do already have the ability to use progressive design build through state legislation that was passed last year. The benefit of CMGC, I think Mr. Ritter covered, but I want to underscore one thing is it gives you more cost certainty because you're bringing in the contractor in earlier. So it really does reduce the risk and you have a better sense of what you're actually, your cost containment is a big factor in trying to deliver the project on time and on budget. So that bill is up in the Senate, or sorry, the Assembly Transportation Committee on Monday. And so we'll keep you posted there. The second bill is Senate Bill 1031, and I want to thank you, Madam Chair, for all the work that you did along with Valley Link staff on participating in conversations. That bill was shelved. It was the impetus for the bill, sponsored by MTC, was to find supplemental operations dollars because the SB 125 funds weren't going to cut it in order to keep systems online in the Bay Area, particularly BART, but also Muni, Caltrain, and such. And so lots of negotiation happened. There wasn't a meeting of the minds as far as return to source and how much each county was going to get as a result. Some counties wanted more project specific. The plan to be more project specific, if you will. We had advocated that we wanted something defined so that there would be a real value proposition for voters in Alameda County, including some operations money and some capital funding to help us with delivering our initial operating segment. But the MTC elected to just not pursue the bill. They understand that they have to do more work. But we did talk to Senator Cortese from Santa Clara, who's chair of the Senate Transportation Committee. Senator Glazer is chair of the Senate Revenue Tax Committee. And we also, believe it or not, have made inroads on the San Joaquin side with Senator Caballero, who represents more the valley south of San Joaquin. And even Senator DeRosa from Los Angeles, who see the value proposition that Valley Link truly is a major mitigation effort to compel mode shift, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, because it's our constituents from here that are having to traverse and go over to the valley, to the Bay. And so equity was something that stuck with them as far as all the disadvantaged communities that would benefit from the system. So we're hoping with the relaunch, and MTC just this morning had announced that there was a working group. It could be headed up by Commissioner Jim Spearing from Solano County. We're hoping to be a part of that and stay abreast of how they intend to revise the legislation going forward. So we'll definitely remain engaged in that effort. And then last but not least, there is a bill that we have as a watch. It's Senate Bill 904. So the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit District, also known as SMART, they're looking at renewing a sales tax measure that expires in 2028. And it's a creative bill because it's looking to use a qualified voter initiative as an alternative in order to maintain their ability to collect the tax. That's never been codified before. There's case law to support the fact that there's Prop 218 with getting the 2/3 vote threshold for taxes, but the qualified voter initiative is 50+1. And so that's an independent process, but the board would put something on the ballot if that was the will of the voters, as long as it has a 1/4 cent dedicated to transit operations and it's for the purpose of funding a transit rail system. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yes, yes,
He doesn't
Madam.
know how to turn on his microphone.
Madam Mayor, quickly,
We'll know more after June 15th.
yes, so your relationship with SJCOG and the transit system, how is that working? You know, they get some funds and you said when the state gives the fund and everybody's competing, where does Valley Link stand in that area?
I think that's still a work in progress. Will,
Yes,
did you
so
have-
I can answer that question, Director Kinjo. Back in October of 2023, the board approved the executive director, CEO, submitting to SJCOG a request for funding from the SB 125 funds that included $30 million to the hydrogen production facility that is targeted for, south of 205 out on the west side of Tracy, as well as an additional $5 million to be able to support the environmental process for the second, phase of the Valley project from Mountain House all the way to North Lathrop. And we did such at a time when also SJCOG board took an action to establish a working group and to ensure that Valley Link would be a member of that group along with other existing operators in order to facilitate, the discussion with regard to how those funds would be prioritized for use. Since that time, the SJCOG board took an action on a portion of the total $93 million that would be available to the San Joaquin Council of Governments that was targeted to be able to support the operational needs of existing operators. And they have been still working through a process to effectively confirm those, or the need of the individual operators that were identified for those formulaic funds. And so that's effectively where we understand that SJCOG is. They're actually now looking and bringing on a potential third-party consultant to be able to help support, that assessment to then bring back, recommendations to the SJCOG board. And so again, we're continuing to participate, in that process to assess the opportunity here to be able to access, those funds for those purposes that I had indicated.
We have public comment. Roland LeBrun.
Well, this is going to be quick because this gentleman made such a superb job explaining to you what SB 904 is about, which, believe it or not, is how you're going to get Valley Link to MTC MAP level 1 major project. We're going to get you up there with BART and the VTA and all that nonsense, okay? So, but he hasn't told you the best part. He's told you the way that this passes is 50% plus 1. But the way that you get it on the ballot is even more interesting. You got to go, you and your grassroots, you go to your electorate, and you only need 10% of the signatures of the registered voters in your constituencies, and boom, that's it. The measures on the ballot. And now you wait to your 50% plus 1. That's the way you have to go, absolutely. You are the equivalent of SMART in Sonoma Marin, okay? So we'll be talking about this some more. By the way, I'm going to make the same recommendation for Muni. They can actually do it. They can get 25% that way too. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public
No
comment?
further public
Okay,
comment.
not seeing any other public comment. We'll go on to item number 9, which is our executive director's report information only.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief, and this is when I like Mr. LeBrun to come up and make comments the most as he attends our meetings. I'm appreciative of that because he is right. We need to keep up the pressure and the support like you've been doing and our electorate's been doing in support of getting the right type of bill passed that includes the right type of projects. And I believe there was a meeting today with MTC, a special meeting to discuss that, but more to come on that for sure. Get back to the SB 125 funds with San Joaquin Council of Governments. They have a big task ahead of them, and they're going to need a lot of support from their board and the member jurisdictions within the county, because there really needs to be a push to continue a fair, transparent transit needs assessment so that the money that's available can really go towards what it's needed for and not just go to an agency that says they need it and because they can make the numbers work. There has to be a process that's in place that defines what their needs are so that that money can go to that agency. I'm not saying that they shouldn't get any money in any of these agencies, but it should be a fair process, and it really is dependent on a tremendous undertaking for SJCOG's executive director and staff to make sure that this happens within the county. And I know that their executive director is trying real hard with the board to make that happen, to make sure that there's a fair process, I should say. And then as we look to come back at our next board meeting, we're likely to have some changes to our board members. We'll have possibly a new member from BART on our board and possibly a new member from Dublin on our board at that time. And then there'll be a new BART member possibly. They'll be on Valley Link.
You're going to get a great director from BART.
They'll probably. It will remain our chair. That will remain our chair until the end of the year, at which point in time we will rotate chairs to San Joaquin County and there'll be a vice chair from the Tri-Valley. And that concludes my executive director's report.
Rickman.
Before Kinjo gets on, I just have a.
He's like, I'm taking first.
It's so funny because my comment.
You notice I stopped looking this way.
I'm first. I hit the button first.
Okay.
Hey, what's this blue button do? This is what I've been hitting the whole time.
It mutes you, so
Yeah.
don't touch it.
Exactly. That was my question. Yeah.
Madam Chair, if
Oh, wait, let's give Rickman.
I just wanted to take up time so Kinjo didn't jump on first.
Oh, okay.
you see, and
All
if-
right.
and
Okay.
if everybody has noticed my question, I knew that we have a San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors here and listening. So most of these questions are actually indirectly going to Director Rickman for him to act on some of this money that is out there, that is in contention, that it actually goes to the right places. So that is why I'm directing those questions, because I know you will act on them, right, Councilor?
I'm District 5, you're in District 4, so I'll talk to Supervisor Patty. Give her a call.
No, but it is nice to have a body that works together. And you have been doing a good job, Supervisor Rickman. I appreciate all your efforts for this Valley regional project all the time. But we are at a particular junction now where we need to start to look for that or prepare ourselves for that investment. And you are part of that investment, Supervisor Rickman, to help us with SJCOG, help us with all these bodies that are out there within the county that are making all these decisions. How do we prioritize Valley Link? So, and that would be my comment. And he sensed that I was going to make that comment. I wanted to jump on first, but it's still directed back at our supervisor, our able supervisor, Rickman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion from our directors? Questions, anything to bring forward to the agenda?
No, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, we don't have to move. All right, so that being said, we will see you at our next meeting. The next regular meeting, folks, the next regular meeting is scheduled for August 14th at the Livermore Public Library Community Room. So we will see you then. Thank you. Have a good evening.
No question, you're done.